It's been about a year since my daughter started living on her own after graduating high school. Despite receiving a decent amount of money from me every month and working part-time, my daughter came home looking thin and frail. Aren't you overdoing it a bit? Are you eating properly? I asked her, and she replied, I'm eating fine, like stir-fried bean sprouts and stuff. When I pressed her for more details, she fell silent. Confirming my uneasy feeling, she said, thanks for the $13 every month, Mom. I couldn't believe my ears. $13? I've been sending you $1,300 every month. My name is Susan. I've always been told I have very poor judgment when it comes to men. I had my first boyfriend when I was in college. I dated someone 2 years older than me, and within just 3 months, I found out he was cheating. After that, I tried dating someone younger, but since I was older and paid for everything, he eventually turned into a bum boyfriend. He was just getting everything from me. Later on, I thought I finally found the right guy, so after dating for 4 years, I married him, only to discover he was both a lazy bum and a cheater. After divorcing my now ex-husband, I spent 10 years raising my daughter as a single parent. My daughter Julia, who I thought would never grow up, had somehow turned into a reliable young woman who took the initiative in doing household chores. You don't have to push yourself so hard. Even when I said that. Because you're working so hard, Mom. You're the one who needs to be careful not to overdo it, Mom. You might collapse. She wouldn't listen. Meanwhile, Julia didn't slack off in her studies either. I want to work as hard as you do, Mom. I don't want to be a burden to you. With those thoughts, she had been studying for a university entrance exam since she started high school. Although she sometimes has her lapses, I think she's a pretty amazing daughter. After intense studying, Julia took the exam and got accepted into a university of her choice. When we went together to check the results and found Julia's exam number on the board, we held hands and celebrated. Time flew by from then until before she started her university. I took a leave from work and we went on a spa trip to celebrate, which was truly enjoyable. As she soaked up to her shoulders in the warm water, her cheeks flushed, and she said, Mom, this is so warm, making me feel an overwhelming love for her. I firmly vowed to myself that I would protect her no matter what. Then, university admission started and my Julia left the nest. I saw her off with a heart full of pride for how well she'd grown, mixed with a little sadness. Since she started living on her own, our nightly routine is to talk on the phone before bed. Julia has always been good at housework and is more responsible than most her age. I wasn't too worried about her day-to-day life, but still, the idea of a young woman living alone left me with some worries. Sometimes I wondered if I was being overprotective, but since Julia happily talked to me every night, our calls after work became a moment of relaxation for me. She shared all kinds of stories with me. About her university classes. About the new friends she made. About the music club she joined with her friends. About a senior student she met there who caught her interest. Julia's days seemed full and joyful, and that made me happy. As the first semester was coming to an end, Julia nervously said, Mom, I need to tell you something. It turned out to be a joyful announcement. I recently got a boyfriend. The boyfriend was the senior who caught her interest from the club, a guy named Ryan Matthews. I responded, that's great. Congratulations, but inside, I was a little worried. After all, my daughter has been told, just like me, that she doesn't have the best judgment when it comes to men. I was anxious, thinking, what if she inherited my bad luck with men? Sensing my concern, Julia asked, Mom, I'd like to introduce him to you. Can I bring him over? I tried to sound cheerful as I replied, of course. During the summer break, Julia came home and brought her boyfriend, Ryan, with her. When I finally met him, Ryan turned out to be a well-groomed, nice young man. Nice to meet you. I'm Ryan Matthews. I'm exclusively dating your daughter. Ryan greeted me promptly at the door and gave me a warm hug. He seemed like a good person. I was relieved, thinking that maybe my worries were unfounded. Ryan didn't have dyed hair or piercings, and he has a certain polished look. The mole under his eye has a bit of a sensual charm. When I was around Julia's age, I was drawn to people like him, and it made me feel oddly nostalgic. Then, as we drank coffee together, I noticed that Ryan was not only responsible but also very considerate. He quickly offered to help carry the pot of coffee I brewed and quietly refilled my cup when it was empty. "Well, Ryan, he's quite a good kid, isn't he?" I whispered to Julia when Ryan stepped away. "What do you mean? Were you worried, Mom?" Julia smiled, a little embarrassed. "Of course, I was. He's the guy my daughter fell for, after all." "Mom, I'm fine. I'm not you, you know." I laughed along, saying, "You're right." Soon, the second semester started. Julia was working hard at her part-time job to cover her living expenses, trying not to burden me. I sent her money every month just in case, but she doesn't use it, saying she wanted to save it for the future. Julia seemed to be relied upon a lot at her job, and with school and work, she was too busy to attend her club activities. "Are you sure you're okay? Don't overdo it, use the money I'm sending you. If you want, I can come over and help with housework." Worried, I asked her this, and Julia weakly replied, "I'm okay." Since I stopped going to the club, Ryan's been coming over a lot because he's worried. "You've got your own stuff to handle, Mom." "I can manage on my own, really." "I hope that's true." The other day, I came back from work, and Ryan surprised me with homemade hamburgers. They were so good. With Ryan around, I'm really fine. From her cheerful tone, I could tell she really liked Ryan. Then Julia quickly ended the call, saying, "I have an early class tomorrow, so I'm going to hang up now." I was still worried, but I reminded myself that Julia had Ryan with her. Julia continued to call me with updates, but as she got busier, the calls gradually became less frequent. When I do hear from her, it usually sounds like she's always busy with her part-time job and classes. Still, I couldn't help but notice that her living condition was a bit off. She mentioned that on the days Ryan came over, he made sure she ate something decent, but on other days, she mostly ate stir-fried bean sprouts. It was clear she was struggling. But I'm sending her more than enough money, and Julia isn't the type to spend impulsively. When I mentioned this to my mother, she brushed it off, saying, "You're worrying too much about Julia, she's already independent. You need to let her go." Maybe I'm just being overprotective. After all, Julia is just turning 19. To me, Julia is still a child, but by society's standards, she's already an adult. Besides, Julia has Ryan, who's a dependable guy. I tried to calm my anxious heart, thinking maybe I should just wait until she's really in trouble and comes to me for help. Before I knew it, winter break had arrived. When Julia came back home again, it was clear she lost a considerable amount of weight. She was already slim, but now her cheeks were sunken, and her waist was noticeably thinner. There were dark lines under her eyes. She told me she had worked late last night and came straight home afterward. "Hey, aren't you overdoing it lately? Are you eating properly?" "I'm eating fine. Stir-fried bean sprouts and stuff." "And stuff." Julia fell silent. "Trying to cover it up," she added. "But, you know, I've gotten really good at making stir-fried bean sprouts." The forced smile on her face was painful to see. Could it be that she isn't eating well at all? I've been sending her money, and she's been working so hard at her job, so why? Feeling uneasy, I'm thinking that something is off. Julia then said something that confirmed my fears. "Thanks for the $13 every month, Mom." $13? I've been sending you $1,300 every month. What? Now it was Julia's turn to be taken aback. The bad feeling in my gut started growing. "Julia, where do you keep your bank book and debit card?" "In the drawer of my desk at home." "Julia, I need you to come with me, let's go to your apartment now. There's something I need to check." Julia seemed surprised by my sudden request, but she nodded, looking a bit pressured. On the way to Julia's apartment, I talked with her about various things. The first thing we discussed was, why did you think the allowance was only $13? Julia had separate accounts, one for her part-time job earnings, her living expenses account, and another for the money I sent her savings account. When the new semester started, and she had to spend a lot on textbooks and other things, Julia checked her savings account recently and found only $78 in it. Julia felt that the balance in her account seemed low, but she hasn't touched the account in the past 6 months. She knew I was sending her money but never asked about the exact amount. So Julia assumed that the $78 was the total amount of her allowance for 6 months. That breaks down to $13 a month. Don't you think that was way too little? I did, but I thought you must be struggling too, Mom. Silly girl. Do you know how much I earn? Don't you dare underestimate me. When I joked, Julia finally seemed to relax. But her face soon clouded over again, and for a good reason. If Julia hadn't touched the money I sent, then someone must have been taking money from her account. That made Ryan, who frequently visited her apartment, the prime suspect. Julia didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to believe it either, that such a nice young man, and Julia's boyfriend no less, could have been stealing her money. I anxiously waited for us to arrive in front of her apartment. As soon as we arrived at her place, we grabbed her bankbook and debit card, then rushed to the ATM. The bank would be closed by early evening. The sun was already setting, and we were running out of time. We slid the bankbook into the ATM and waited for the transaction history to be printed. We both gasped when we saw the numbers printed on the bankbook. $1,300 is indeed deposited every month, but there are frequent withdrawals. Julia turned pale and whispered, "Why?" I took Julia, who looked like she was about to collapse, to a cafe and decided to ask her for more details. Mainly about how she managed her bankbook. Julia said she kept her bankbook and debit card in a locked drawer in her desk. However, the key was kept in another drawer, so it was easy to unlock if someone got into her apartment. The only person who could have gone through her things when she wasn't there was her boyfriend, Ryan, who has a spare key. On top of that, her PIN was the same as the one she used for her other card. He must have seen her using it while withdrawing money somewhere. I realized that I might have been careless when I set up the account for her. I'm sorry. I didn't think this through enough. I never imagined someone else would use it. Mom, it's not your fault. I should have been more careful with my own stuff. We both bowed our heads, but I added, but the one who's really at fault here is the person who used someone else's money without permission. Yeah, you're right. Julia's response was weak, and I couldn't blame her. After all, the person she trusted the most had betrayed her in a very painful way. Seeing my daughter so dejected broke my heart. Leave this to me. Before I knew it, those words had left my mouth. You might not want to make a big deal out of this, but this is a serious crime. We need to gather evidence and report it to the police. The police. Julia's voice trembled, she was clearly shaken. That's right. It's that serious. Don't worry. I'll take care of the rest. This is to make sure you can continue your college life without any worries, okay? Julia hesitated, then nodded slightly. A few days later, I revisited a private detective agency I had used during my ex-husband's infidelity investigation. I'd like you to investigate my daughter's boyfriend. His name is Ryan Matthews, a senior in the economics department at the same university as my daughter. He may have been using the money I send my daughter monthly without her permission. Saying this, I showed them a photo that Julia had sent me on my phone. They readily agreed to take on the case. The fee wasn't cheap, but it was worth it to get to the bottom of this, for my daughter's sake. While we waited for the investigation, Julia, who was feeling anxious, suggested she would stay with me for the meantime and commute to school from my house. It took her more than an hour each way, so the commute was tough, but every time I came home, Julia looked visibly relieved. One day, she even made stir-fried bean sprouts as a side dish for dinner. Just as she said, I've gotten good at making stir-fried bean sprouts. The dish Julia made was indeed crisp and delicious. It broke my heart, thinking she must have been making this almost every day, but Julia confidently winked at me. Then, a month later, the investigation results came in. It was confirmed that Ryan had been withdrawing money from Julia's account. According to what the investigators found out, Ryan's friends testified that shortly after he started dating Julia, he suddenly began spending a lot. Shockingly, this wasn't Ryan's only crime. It turns out he was involved with several other women. As I was left speechless, a few photos were handed to me, pictures of Ryan intimate with other women. A photo of him enjoying a meal with another at a restaurant. A picture of them looking into shops together. A photo of them walking through a hotel district. In every photo, the same man appeared with different women. The man had a distinctive mole under his eye. It was unmistakably Ryan. It seems Ryan Matthews wasn't just trying to impress his friends, but was also using your daughter's allowance to maintain relationships with multiple girlfriends. The investigator told me this with a stern expression. I sincerely thanked them. Now, it was time to strike back. Initially, I filed a police report. Then, I sent letters detailing Ryan's actions to his parents, his university, and all of his girlfriends. At first, Ryan tried to play dumb, but when confronted by several of his girlfriends, he finally admitted to what he did. Naturally, all of his girlfriends, including Julia, broke up with him. After the police got involved, Ryan was expelled from school and taken back to his parents' home. Fortunately, his parents were reasonable people and came to our house to personally apologize. His parents agreed to repay the stolen money for the time being. I'll make sure my foolish son pays it back, even if it kills him. Ryan's father even got down on his knees to apologize. Julia heard some gossip that Ryan is now working multiple part-time jobs to repay all the money he owes his parents. As the situation settled down, it was just the beginning of spring. To celebrate breaking free from a bad relationship, we went on another hot spring trip for the first time in a year when Julia's spring break started. Since then, Julia had gotten her life back on track, and her complexion and physique were returning to a healthy state. We soaked in the warm bath, ate delicious food, and watched TV. It felt like we were finally able to enjoy some peaceful time together after so long. Mom. Just before going to bed, Julia spoke to me from under the covers. What is it? The reason you and Dad got divorced was because of his excessive spending and cheating, right? Julia's words caught me off guard. My ex-husband, like Ryan, was someone who spent money recklessly to impress others. Because of that, he stopped contributing to household expenses, and when he cheated on me, I handed him divorce papers. We ended up choosing similar types of men, didn't we? Julia said with a slightly sad smile. Yes, we need to be more careful from now on. My heart skipped a beat, but I answered in a deliberately cheerful voice. You know, Mom, you seem to be in a good mood lately. Did you finally get a good boyfriend or something? No way. I don't have a boyfriend, yet. So, there's a chance you might have one? I haven't told Julia yet that I've been getting along quite well with the investigator since that incident. Yet she seems to sense it. Maybe it's a woman's intuition, or perhaps it's because we've been in sync for a very long time. Hey, Mom, are you sure about this one? Julia teased, nudging me with a laugh. I don't know yet, I think so. He seems serious and reliable, unlike your dad. Oh, come on, Mom, get it right this time. It wouldn't be funny if you were the next one to mess up after me. Right. I'll be careful. After saying that seriously, Julia and I couldn't help but look at each other and burst out laughing.